What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we know going into the summertime that there's at least one Zelda game we can look forward to this year, that being The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, along with some really cool looking Zelda-themed controllers that I happened to get pre-ordered through Best Buy, so good news there. But what about like a Zelda collection or some other Zelda releases to go alongside the anniversary? That's something that's getting brought up now. Are they just not going to do that? Well, according to one reliable source online, it turns out we could be seeing more Zelda games coming out this year, which probably isn't that surprising, but we'll talk about that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about big sales for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury and Silent Hill. It's come up a couple of times, especially on the podcast, and a new report is talking about two different Silent Hill games, one of which has an interesting developer attached to it. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Mario Golf Super Rush. One of the highlights, for me anyway, of that Nintendo Direct was this Mario Golf game. I really enjoyed it on the GameCube, and it was actually a very good experience on the Game Boy because it had like a full single player campaign that had like RPG elements and stat boosting and all of this. Is pretty cool. But there were some questions around this game, and Nintendo did update their website for it. One question that I saw come up a lot was about the multiplayer side. So let's head over here to Nintendo's website, where if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we do see that it does indeed say this game supports online play and save data cloud backup. It's 4.9 gigabytes, coming out June 25th, of course, being developed by Camelot. The big question that I saw going around was, will this game have that online multiplayer? And yes, it will. And I know Nintendo has, of course, been known for doing these weird omissions when it comes to online multiplayer. Like, for example, Mario 3D World on the Wii U. I don't know why there was no multiplayer there for online play. It was very strange, but here it is now with it on the Switch. And I think the biggest thing right now, Nintendo is actually charging for online, whereas with the Wii U, it was free, so it was more of an afterthought, whereas now it's actually a legitimate revenue source that they need to continue driving forward and building on, because they will, of course, talk to investors about it, and it will be brought up here and there. So there is an actual reason for them to put online multiplayer in more of their games, and I think they will continue to do that. Also, Fall Guys was announced for the Nintendo Switch in this past Direct, but looks like it's going to another system as well, and we can head over here to Twitter. This from Xbox, saying Fall Guys is landing on Xbox Series X, S, and Xbox One this summer, and this is not surprising at all because they accidentally told us that this was happening. Remember, we covered this. There was a Game Pass Instagram post, and underneath of that, I guess the social media manager replied saying that Fall Guys was going to happen eventually. It was coming to the Xbox. And then it was this whole thing online where I think Devolver and the other developers for Fall Guys had to say, no, it's not showing up. Here we are a month later. It's coming to the Xbox this summer alongside of the Switch. So there we go. It would be a good pickup, I think, for Xbox Game Pass. So maybe they'll work to put that in day one. But outside of that, it'll be on all three platforms. You might as well get crossplay enabled as well. That's a game that obviously benefits from a large online population, and if you can get all these systems playing together, it'll only help it. Oh, and we had talked previously about EA working to buy Codemasters out after outbidding Take-Two. It looks like that deal is done. We can head over here to Engadget, where it says it's official. EA now has a much larger stake in the racing game world. The publisher has completed its $1.2 billion acquisition of Codemasters soon after shareholders approved the deal, and just a few months after Take-Two's failed attempt. The purchase puts the likes of Dirt and Formula One under the same umbrella as Need for Speed and Real Racing. Now, the biggest thing for EA certainly were the number of IPs that Codemasters had. They actually had quite a bit, and looking at this, now EA can basically do a yearly racing game that wouldn't have to be Need for Speed almost every single year. They can split things up, they can have longer dev cycles for these racing games and still get one out every year. I think that was one of the biggest reasons that they went after Codemasters, is because of how many IPs they had and how they realized, wow, we can be basically the big company around racing games now going forward. I do get concerned when you start to see so many companies buy other companies, because we just saw Microsoft buy Bethesda, and now here's Codemasters going to EA, and you start kind of consolidating all of these different companies to big companies. It gets a little concerning. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Legend of Zelda Anniversary. It's something that is coming up here pretty soon, and people are wondering why they didn't mention it at all in the Direct. They never said The Legend of Zelda Anniversary, nothing. They mentioned Skyward Sword, they mentioned the Joy-Cons, and then that was kind of it. Oh, and Breath of the Wild 2. More information's coming later. That was kind of it. But remember, we're still in the Mario anniversary. So Because of that, you're not going to have then Zelda Anniversary pile on top and overshadow it. It's not going to happen. So really, we have to wait until April at the earliest for them to start talking about the Zelda Anniversary, as it seems that the Mario Anniversary is going to run until the end of this current fiscal year, ending March 31st. But once that Zelda Anniversary starts up, what can we expect? Because we know Skyward Sword is coming up. Turns out we'll be getting a collection, and you can most likely guess the titles that will be a part of that. Let's head over here to Twitter. This from Andy Robinson saying, for those disappointed with the Skyward Sword remaster, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are 100% coming this year. So that's at least one good 3D Zelda game. Now, Andy's pretty good with this kind of stuff, and yeah, I'll say Twilight Princess and Wind Waker do appear to be heading to the Switch this year. I'm wondering if it's going to be a double pack, because there is controversy right now around Skyward Sword's pricing at $60. Remember, it's a Wii port. Yes, there is work being done to it because they put the button controls in there, and they are making a 1080p at 60 frames per second. And who knows, maybe there's additional content that they will be putting in there, because there's been talks about it having amiibo support. So you never know, they could add an extra dungeon or just something else in there to make it feel like it's worth that $6 more so than it is now for people. But looking at Wind Waker, could that be $60 on the Switch? I don't think so, because they've already done that once on the Wii U. Same with Twilight Princess. That means they would have ported it from the GameCube to the Wii U, then to the Switch. 50, 60, 60, that's tough. I think it makes a lot more sense to obviously take Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, smash them together in a compilation, a single cartridge, maybe throw something else in there too, change it up, put like Oracle of Ages or Seasons on there, why not? Or if you're trying to keep it more 3D related, put Majora's Mask on there. And I know some people out there are probably wondering, why didn't they just announce that in the Direct that we just had? Well, I think there are a lot of people right now that believe, wow, it was 500 some odd days between those directs. Maybe it's gonna be another 500 days between this and the next direct. No, it was a strange time, obviously, as Nintendo tried to get things figured out with remote work and making these directs and putting them together when people couldn't get together. Now it seems like they're starting to figure out their whole approach to this, and I think another direct will come up sooner than you realize. And I'm saying direct because it could be anything, not necessarily one of these full Nintendo Directs. For example, there could be a Zelda 35 direct, and I kind of expect that to happen. I'm trying to figure out when they would do it. Maybe July, just before Skyward Sword comes out. One last big marketing push there, maybe another reveal for it ahead of its launch, and then they show us all the cool Zelda stuff coming up, which would probably include, yes, this Wind Waker Twilight Princess double pack. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below, and how we would go about doing a Wind Waker and Twilight Princess pack, or you think they would try to separate them like they've done with Skyward Sword and sell them for 60 each. Next up, let's talk about Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury and the sales out of Famitsu. We'll head over here to the top 10, where we can see Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury at the top, 250,000 units. That is a very good opening week for Bowser's Fury, especially when we compare it to the original Super Mario 3D World release on the Wii U back in 2013, doing less than half of this, just over 100,000 units. And if we take Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury and compare it to 3D All-Stars, for example, that released very recently, right, just last year, that would actually be about 40,000 above 3D All-Stars. And if we take and compare it to something like Galaxy for the Wii, it's actually only about 5,000 or 6,000 units shy of that. So yes, this puts Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury into very, very good company. And it also knocked Momotaro off of the top spot, and that now at number 2, 46,638, but is running up to 2 million units here pretty well. Then we have Little Nightmares 2 on the Nintendo Switch, 24,470. Interestingly enough, the PlayStation 4 version of the same release on the same day actually had less than half of the Switch version. And then we have Ring Fit Adventure, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Then we have Little Nightmares 2 on the PS4, Minecraft, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Pokemon Sword Shield. Moving over to the hardware, the Nintendo Switch at the top, 109,615. That actually puts the Switch less than 1.6 million units away from the 20 million mark in Japan alone. The PS5 seems to have had a nice little restock here, moving up to 22,890. That's about a 9,000 unit jump from the previous week. The PlayStation 4 was up as well, 4,407. The 3DS was at 797, and the Xbox Series system is having a hard time in Japan right now. I have a strong feeling that Microsoft is probably not prioritizing Japan for shipments of Xbox systems, as it looks like they're pushing a lot of them to Europe and the United States, but 136 Xbox Series units sold this past week. So if you're still wondering why Nintendo keeps moving Wii U ports over, there you go. They keep making money. I mean, 250,000 units for a game that was already available on the Wii U. Sure, it has Bowser's Fury, which is interesting, but like, it's still mostly Super Mario 3D World. That's a lot. Like, that's a lot of units to sell. And I mean, if you look at the Wii U, not a lot of people owned it. A lot of people own the Switch that clearly did not own the Wii U. So this is a new game to them. Nintendo's going to keep doing this. I mean, Pikmin even sold well. They didn't even put a lot of work into something like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. They didn't take the U out of the title. Still sells 10 million copies. I have a feeling Skyward Sword, which underperformed in terms of sales on the Wii, gets moved to the Switch. It's absolutely going to, I think, double the amount of sales that it had on the Wii when it gets moved to the Switch. So yes, Nintendo will keep moving these games over, but either way, big sales here for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. And it's interesting to see how Nintendo will treat 3D Mario going forward after seeing sales attached to Bowser's Fury. Next up, let's talk about Silent Hill. This has come up a couple of times now as rumors continue to spread over what's been at least, I would say, the last year or so that Sony was in talks with Konami, but maybe there was another developer in talks with Konami, because there has been a rumor that there are actually 2 Silent Hill games in development right now. And VGC has a latest report on this, which is kind of interesting because all of the pieces are fitting together for this to make sense. So first, let's head over here because we're going to get a quote from Bloober Team CEO. That's right, the developing studio behind The Medium. We've been working for more than a year on another gaming project, another horror IP, and we're doing this with a very famous gaming publisher. I can't tell you who, I can't tell you what the project is, but I'm pretty sure when people realize we're working on it, they'll be very excited. Now, this has led to heavy speculation that they are saying, yes, we are working on one of those 2 Silent Hill games. And Konami wasn't as interested, it seemed, in actually licensing out or moving some of their properties around to other studios until they did something like Metal Gear Survive that internally didn't go over too well from what reports have been saying. But according to VGC, it looks like the other studio that could be working on this would actually fall in line more so with Sony Japan Studios, as previous rumors have said. VGC understands that Konami has already outsourced a Silent Hill project to a prominent Japanese developer, with a reveal due this summer. That's something else that keeps coming up, is when would this Silent Hill game be announced? Because basically now we're just looking at any time that would be good, a State of Play, a Game Awards, any of that where there are a lot of people watching. And I could see a State of Play take place over the summer, and then yes, there's Silent Hill. But it's interesting that there could be 2 Silent Hills, one maybe being done by Bloober Team that did The Medium. And you know what? I think they would do all right with that, because if you play The Medium, it has a lot of psychological horror, and that's something that they would probably be able to do really well with the Silent Hill IP. But then also having Sony do the other one with their Japan studios is interesting. I almost wonder how different they would be just because of kind of the differences from the developers. Like, for example, the rumor's been that Japan Studios at Sony has some of the staff from the Siren team. So, wow, this could be something really cool to keep an eye on with Silent Hill. It's just going to come down to when they actually reveal it and all of this, and then what else could they have for us? Because there was also this tweet here from Andy at VGC that mentions that apparently Konami is also working to license out Metal Gear Solid and Castlevania. You know what? Here's the way I see it. Konami, if you just want to start licensing out all of your properties, yeah, I can get on board with that, because we really don't need another Metal Gear Survive. We don't need another Contra. With what they've done with those games, maybe it's time for other studios to try it. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Nvidia and their RTX card lineup, because it's like impossible to find one of these things for the suggested retail price. Like, with the RTX 3060 is supposed to be $330, and everyone's looking at like, yeah, good luck. We'll see how that goes. I'll go to click add to cart and it'll be sold out immediately. And there are a few reasons why. Obviously, there are people who are buying them up to then resell and scalp them online, sure. But there are also a lot of people who will mine for cryptocurrency and use several video cards that they buy in bunches to create these rigs that can do things like mine Ethereum or Bitcoin, for example. Well, it looks like Nvidia is starting to realize this, and they're almost trying to separate their product product line for either side. This in a press release from Nvidia. RTX 3060 software drivers are designed to detect specific attributes of the Ethereum cryptocurrency mining algorithm and limit the hash rate or cryptocurrency mining efficiency by around 50%. To address the specific needs of Ethereum mining, we're announcing the Nvidia CMP or cryptocurrency mining processor product line for professional mining. CMP products, which don't do graphics, are sold through authorized partners and optimized for the best mining performance and efficiency. They don't meet the specifications required of a GeForce GPU and thus don't impact the availability of GeForce GPUs to gamers. It's interesting that Nvidia decided, you know what, we're going to GIMP that 3060 basically through drivers, and that way we can push people who are trying to mine for things like Ethereum towards these new cards, not even video cards. Apparently they don't even have outputs because you're not plugging a bunch of monitors into these cards to play games on. You're literally using them to figure out complex algorithms to then mine for different cryptocurrency. I guess they're thinking we separate these two products and we can then just sell these RTX cards to gamers who are going to use them to play games rather than sell one pool of product to all these different people, one of which will buy tons of video cards and really just eliminate the supply all in one shot. Now, Nvidia says that there's no circumvention for what they've done here with the driver to limit the hash rate on this, but I gotta wonder there, because let's say these mining cards that Nvidia puts out are very expensive, but there is a way to hack or circumvent what they've done to the driver. It won't matter then, because it's all about cost versus performance and what you can get from it when you mine cryptocurrency and all this. So for them, it would be worth it to then hack the driver and get these cheaper video cards if they can do that. It's going to come down to if what they've done to this 3060, for example, is actually solid and won't be hacked. We'll see about all that. Before we take a look at the comment of the day, we're going to look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I said, what did you think about the Nintendo Direct? I said it was either good or it was underwhelming. Some people wanted the one in the middle. It was fine. Now, you got to pick one or the other. It was either good or it was underwhelming. And it does look like quite a few of you said it was underwhelming, about 62% at the time that I looked at the poll. But I do wonder this. If there was one big announcement, like let's say Metroid Prime 4 was there, let's say Breath of the Wild 2 was there, it was exactly the same, but that one last thing, that one big announcement was there, would that be enough to sway you to say it was good? Because that's kind of something I've noticed. If there is at least one big announcement at one of these directs that clicks with everyone, then all of a sudden the Direct is amazing despite a lot of things that may have been viewed as underwhelming otherwise. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Cyber saying, the eternal cycle of Directs, waiting for a Direct announcement, get a Direct announcement, think the most balls off the wall announcements, get the Direct, feel disappointed by the Direct, wait for a new Direct announcement. Someday people will learn to temper expectations. Maybe next time. That's never going to happen. The hype cycle around Directs are insane. I mean, if you look at the numbers that Nintendo had, they had over 1 million people watching this Direct on YouTube. It was astronomical. I've never seen that before for a Nintendo Direct. So now you have this large install size when it comes to the Switch, over 80 million units. So you have a lot of customers keeping eyes on this stuff. Yeah, the hype is going to get out of control no matter what. And yes, there will be people who will be disappointed no matter what, because there are a lot of IPs that Nintendo control, and we all want to see Metroid, but there was no Metroid. So are you disappointed now? Or hey, maybe you liked Splatoon, maybe you liked Mario Golf. I feel like this last Direct at least had one announcement for most people to enjoy, but there wasn't for a lot of people that one massive announcement like a Metroid or like a Breath of the Wild, which I think would have turned the tide for a lot of people. But don't worry, another Direct will be coming up, I'm sure, in the future, and we can all restart this cycle all over again. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's the Zelda 35th anniversary and the possibility of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess coming up as a combo pack. Do you think they have to add something else, or do you think just those two together at $6 is good enough? And then also, what do you think about all these Wii U ports? They keep coming over, but they keep selling. You know what? I think it's time to test this theory. I think it's time to move over Xenoblade Chronicles X and see how that one sells. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday for Newswave, 8 a.m. Eastern Time.